Here's the strange thing about Marks & Spencer. Woolworths is gone, BHS is gone, Debenhams is gone, but M&S somehow remains on every high street in a weird kind of retail purgatory. Your nan still shops there for underwear while Gen Z discovered their food on TikTok, and yet mention M&S clothing to anyone under 40. And you'll see that polite confusion reserved for a distant relative they'd assumed passed away years ago. Back in 1998, M&S held a market value nearly twice as large as Tesco, and they became the first British retailer to break £1 billion in profit. By 2001, that profit had collapsed by 85%. The 2 decades since have brought hostile takeovers, a fashion division handed to someone from a car parts company, and a 2025 cyber attack where hackers brought down the entire operation with a single phone call. The arrogance years. Understanding the fall requires understanding just how high M&S climbed and how delusional the leadership became at the top. Pre-tax profit hit £1.2 billion in 1998, share price touched 772 pence, and only Walmart generated more profit from retail that year. Chairman Sir Richard Greenbury looked at those figures and made a confession that would haunt the company, admitting they couldn't believe it, that they thought they were geniuses. One detail captures the institutional madness perfectly. In 1998, M&S still refused to accept credit cards, not some credit cards, but any credit card at all. Visa, MasterCard, American Express, none of them worked at the till. They didn't change that policy until 2001, a full decade after every other major retailer had moved on. M&S thought they were too special to need Visa. The crash arrived fast. November 1998 brought the first serious profit warning since the Second World War, and Greenbury called it a bloodbath, saying business had fallen off a cliff. By 2001, profit had cratered from £1.2 billion to just £145 million. Share price collapsed from over 600 pence to around 217 pence, and the empire was contracting on every front. They shuttered all 38 Canadian stores, sold off Europe, and dumped their American businesses. That's when the predator arrived. The takeover that nearly was. Philip Green announced in May 2004 that he was coming for Marks & Spencer. Green controlled the Topshop and BHS empire from his yacht in Monaco, and he'd built a reputation for hostile acquisitions that left boards terrified. M&S, wounded and directionless, looked like the perfect target. The M&S board panicked immediately. Within days, they'd sacked both the CEO and the chairman and parachuted in Stuart Rose with a single job, stopping Philip Green. What followed became the most vicious corporate battle Britain had seen in years. Green kept raising his bid, first to 370 pence per share, then on July 7th, to his final offer of 400 pence, putting £9.1 billion on the table for everything. The board was reportedly split down the middle on surrender, and according to some accounts, 2 press releases were prepared that week, one announcing M&S had agreed to sell. The company came within hours of becoming Philip Green's property. Rose held the line, unveiled a turnaround plan, promising £2.3 billion to shareholders, and at the AGM on July 14th, the investors narrowly backed him. Green withdrew. The aftermath turned ugly. Both sides accused each other of phone tapping and corporate espionage. Rose faced an FSA investigation after buying £100,000 in M&S shares during the battle, though he was cleared within 2 weeks. Green's parting words dripped with venom, promising to breathe down their necks in every street and every shopping centre in the UK, saying, "Then we'll see who is the best retailer." M&S had survived. But here's the thing. Surviving Philip Green and actually fixing the business turned out to be very different challenges. Please drop a like, subscribe and comment if you're a Marks & Spencer shopper. Crushed in the middle. The clothing business was bleeding market share in every direction. Zara was churning out catwalk copies in weeks. Primark was selling clothes at prices Marks & Spencer couldn't touch, and Next had quietly become the quality alternative with stock rising over 200% while Marks & Spencer stumbled. That left Marks & Spencer stranded in the middle with nowhere to go. Too expensive for the budget shopper, too boring for anyone who cared about style, and in retail being stuck in the middle means slow death because you end up being nobody's first choice for anything. Stuart Rose discovered what he later called anarchy inside the company. Assistant buyers were spending £30 to £40 million without any oversight, and over £300 million in commitments had been made with no management sign-off. Nobody was in control. The parade of failed sub-brands told the whole story. Per Una, which Marks & Spencer had bought for £125 million, lost its identity so completely that a former employee claimed it took 10 people 3 days on a foreign trip just to choose a crystal for a pair of jeans. That's not fashion, that's a committee designing a camel. Rose stabilized things temporarily, but the clothing crisis was never truly solved, only papered over. When he left in 2010, the board made a hiring decision that would cost them enormously: the billion-pound failure. Mark Bolland arrived from Morrisons with a £15 million signing bonus and promised to finally fix Marks & Spencer clothing. He spent £2.3 billion over 6 years on store renovations, women's wear relaunches, and a digital transformation. The result was clothing sales declining for 14 consecutive quarters, which works out to 3.5 years of unbroken failure. The website relaunch of 2014 became legendary for all the wrong reasons. Marks & Spencer invested £150 million in the new platform, and within weeks, online sales had dropped 8.1%. Customers reported checkout buttons that didn't function, and a delivery address form that somehow excluded major British cities. You literally couldn't get things delivered to parts of the country. Bolland's response to the disaster became infamous. He called it a journey. Then came the real symbol of how lost Marks & Spencer had become. In 2017, they hired Jill McDonald to run clothing and home. McDonald's previous job was at Halfords, the car parts and bicycle chain, and she had no fashion experience whatsoever. Within 2 years, she was fired after what the CEO described as some of the worst availability in casual clothes he had ever seen, a jeans promotion that sold out and couldn't be replenished. They hired someone from car parts to save British fashion. By the time Bolland departed, clothing market share had collapsed from over 11% to around 7.6%. He had earned roughly £17 million while delivering precisely 1/4 of same-store sales growth out of 19 attempts. The Food Lifeline. While clothing collapsed, M&S Food quietly built a cult following. Ready meals developed genuine devotees. Colin the Caterpillar cake became a British institution, and TikTok Discovery sent their snacks viral with products like the Big Daddy chocolate bar racking up millions of views. A £750 million Ocado deal in 2019 finally cracked online grocery, roughly a decade after competitors had figured it out. By late 2024, M&S overtook Waitrose to become Britain's 5th largest grocer for the first time. The underwear shop was beating the posh supermarket at its own game. Share price climbed over 300% from its lows. The turnaround finally looked real. That's when a hacker picked up the phone. The Dragon Calls Easter weekend 2025 brought the first signs of disaster, with contactless payments failing and click and collect not working while staff looked confused across Britain. A hacking group called Scattered Spider had been inside M&S systems since February, giving them 2 months to explore before anyone noticed. They had stolen the master database containing every password in the company, which meant they owned everything. Online shopping went dark for 46 days. Stores reverted to pen and paper for inventory tracking. Staff walked the aisles, physically checking refrigerator temperatures, because automated systems had died. Shelves emptied as the supply chain collapsed. CEO Stuart Machin received a message from the attackers that read like a fever dream. They wrote that they had mercilessly company and encrypted all the servers, ending with the line that the dragon wants to speak to you. Machin admitted going into shock when he read it, describing the feeling as being in the pit of your stomach, pure anxiety. The damage reached £324 million in lost sales, with over £1 billion wiped from market value. Customer data, including names, addresses, and dates of birth, was stolen and exposed. And here's the part that should terrify every company in Britain. The hackers gained entry by phoning the IT help desk, which was run by a third-party contractor. They pretended to be an employee and asked for a password reset. Someone on the other end did it. One phone call brought a 140-year-old institution to its knees. What's left? M&S will probably survive this too. Food sales kept growing through the chaos, and by November 2025, they declared the recovery on track. The bigger question remains though. The middle ground M&S once dominated has been hollowed out completely. Primark owns the bottom, Next owns quality, Zara owns fast fashion. Nothing remains in between. M&S survived. Philip Green and survived Mark Boland and survived the hackers. The market they were built for doesn't really exist anymore, and that might be the cruelest fate of all. Not dying, but not quite living either. What do you reckon? Is there a way back for M&S, or are they just delaying the inevitable? Drop your memories in the comments because we'd love to hear your take. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, give us a like, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. Cheers for watching, and we'll catch you next time.